motion to amend the agenda to include a superintendent's report. We'll include it right after the principal's report.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So our first item on the agenda is public comment. We do have somebody participating remotely, but
If they,
if they need to make a comment or if they're here to make a comment, they can raise their hand through the Zoom interface. Otherwise, we will
I'm not seeing that.
move forward with the, yeah, we're all going to have to get used to this a little bit, both from a community standpoint as well as a board standpoint, how this Zoom will impact the participation remotely. Finance, we have a just bus request. Hi.
Hi. Yes, every year we ask permission of the board to organize a bus for transportation for students who participate in the program who do not have a way to get to the mountain. We don't have final numbers yet because it's early, but I wanted to get that in process so that we can let parents know that we have a bus if needed.
It certainly makes transportation. It makes accessing the program possible.
Correct. And typically we have anywhere between 20 and 30 kids, K-12, but grades 3 through 12 who use the bus.
Yep.
You have to be in third grade to ride the bus.
Okay.
I'm all for it. I think I just worry we don't have enough bus drivers. Seems like you know the thing, that's what scares me.
Right. That's why I was hoping to at least get approval to make sure that we can tap a driver and prepare for that.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So if we could have a motion from the board to authorize approval for a GIST bus for the season January through March.
Make a motion to approve just the bus from January to March.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll have a second. Any further discussion? I would assume that you'll come back to us if there are any logistical issues with either numbers or a driver. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Then we have a bid for roof replacement. This is an item that we had previously discussed, but have an actual bid that was put in the packet for tonight. Holly, is there anything that we need to know about the status of this project?
Yep, just from an update from last time, we reviewed with State Historic Preservation. They came back and said, no, we would like it all to be slate. We reviewed it on site with Superintendent Joaquin and Jamie. We had a robust conversation with State Historic Preservation Office after that, and they agreed that from the elevation this way can all be asphalt, just the front face is slate to retain the historic nature.
I just got a text from Jess. She says she can't hear anything. If we could just pause and make sure that we can get that sorted out.
Jess, can you hear me?
Can anybody hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you.
Can you hear me, Jess? Test. Test.
Yeah, she says she can't hear anything.
Got into the roof bin. See if we can fix it.
Okay.
You text her back, make sure her volume is on. That's a pretty common people out there computers.
A little closer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So Jess, just since you couldn't hear and I didn't realize that you couldn't hear, I just want to confirm we did discuss the GIST bus under the finance report and took a motion and approved moving forward with the GIST bus for the season. And Deanne will notify us if there are any issues with securing a driver or whether or not we have enough students.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
Okay. And Holly is talking to us about the roof.
Yeah.
Okay, back on track.
So
We get a little louder, so.
okay,
This
yeah,
is the only mic.
Jessica, let me know if you can't hear me yet. Okay, so we came to an agreement with the State Historic Preservation Office that this elevation could remain, or could be switched to asphalt, and then the main face be replaced as slate so that it maintains its historic nature.
Okay. So the bid that we have here is for that work to finish the roofing with the.
So that, Jamie provided that today. I've been otherwise engaged, so I haven't reviewed it, but I know he's been reviewing it.
Okay, it's the same number that was in the original committee summary. Todd, are you,
Yes, the quote has not changed from
okay,
the September discussion.
okay. All right, so at this point then, it sounds like what we need is a motion to approve and move forward with the bid from Townsend's for the roof work with a total of $23,375.
Make a motion to approve Townsend General Home Repairs bid for $23,375 for the money to be taken out of the roof capital sinking fund.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, motion and a second for completion of the work, and thank you, Todd, for specifying the roof sinking fund. Any discussion? We've been talking about this for a while. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? We are unanimous. And our next item on the agenda is principal report.
Thank you. I'll start with Fisher. Staff has participated with the supervisory union in looking at our beginning of year assessment data, and we'll continue to work with Andrea Lane, who is our ELA coach from the supervisory union, to monitor data, beginning, middle, and end. We have hosted a successful trunk or treat, and a big thank you to all the community members who came out and supported us. We had probably 28 trunks and over 150 kids who participated, and it was cold. Halloween, we hosted a Halloween parade, and the weather was great on Halloween, and so we hosted a pre-K to 12 parade for the community, and the turnout was great. We had some great costumes, pre-K to 12, and lots of community members out there, and some great pictures from that event. So thanks to all who helped make that event successful. And thank you to our PTG for hosting bingo and craft events, and we are currently taking donations to the Arlington Food Shelf. We've had field trips. Grade 1 went to Wonder Feet Museum. Kindergarten went to Terry's Apple Orchard. Second grade went to Liberty Ridge Farm. Kindergarten's gone to Equinox Nursery, and the first grade went to Bennington Project Independence. Our staff has participated in some professional development as we continue to roll out our new ELA curriculum of Wonders. We've done some literacy work with the Hill Group, and Andrea has supported us in that. And all the staff has done some regulation for educators, which is a 5 to 6 week series that we are doing pre-K to 12. We've done one series, we have another coming, and there will be more throughout our GIST professional development. We submitted our top name a truck suggestions, and we liked one so much we submitted it to the Agency of Transportation, and were awarded a truck. And so Miss Edmonds' class named the AOT truck Cleopatra, which was one of our favorites. And so we've also named 3 town trucks. So one town truck will be named Cleopatra, and our second 2 will be Buzz Ice Clear and Scoop Dog. And so the town is coming with our names on them Monday morning at 9 o'clock, so all the kids will get to view the truck. At the high school, juniors and seniors have taken the PSAT. All staff have completed that SSRIE, which is new to the AMHS. It is the Student Risk Screening Scale. 4 students have attended the Athletic Leadership Conference last week with Mr. Borsari, organized by Kathy Beerworth. And our professional development, we have done crisis team meetings, regulation for educators, and having team meetings and talking about team meeting issues. There are 4 different groups here at the high school, and so they have all met by academic. And we held a winter sports meeting on November 6th with all of the coaches, players, and parents, and the winter season will kick off on December 2nd, and all coaches have been staffed for the winter season. I'm working with Kathy on creating a new sports handbook, and as soon as it's complete, I will get you out a copy. But she's hoping that we have it done before the winter season kicks off on November 2nd, so we'll share that with these incoming winter season staff. And then we've had lots of college visits. I don't think I will list them all, but we have had probably 25 colleges visit us over the course of the last couple of months. Plymouth State, Champlain College, University of Maine at Farmington, Clark University, Simmons, Russell Sage, BU, Endicott, Marist, Keene, Sterling College, Miami University, Oxford of Ohio, University of Rhode Island, Paul Smith, Franklin Pierce, and Long Island University, just to name a few. All have been attended, kids are pretty excited, and so we'll see what other colleges will come to visit in the near future. We have a blood drive scheduled for November 18th, and if you've seen it on the news, apparently you can get a pair of Friends socks. So make sure you sign up to give some blood right here in the gym. And the last announcement I have is that we have made a calendar change with Jim's approval. We, as you know, every year host a Arts Day, K-12, and we are actually going to include music this year, so it'll be art and music. We don't have a name for it yet. We've thrown a few out there, but as a committee and a group, they'll pick the names. But in order for us to stay away from Southern Vermont Art Show and the availability of Martha Canfield Gallery, the date will be March 25th, which was the week of our parent conferences. We didn't want to ask parents to come out for a second night in the week, and because parent conferences at Fisher are usually through the week, not just the 2 days, we've moved them to the following week. Given parents enough notice, it has already gone out in weekly updates. We will continue to put it in the update, send out reminders, but the parent conferences will be April 3rd and 4th, which is just a week later. Any questions?
Those tests you were talking about, you took tests up here, were we taking in the last 2 years?
The SSR, yes. Different ones. We have given a few different tests. Even at, some years we use Track My Progress, some years we use MAPS. We are trying to get on the same schedule as the SU so that when we're looking at data points, we're looking at the same thing.
The groups that you were talking about, you said 4 different teams?
Teams, so ELA, math, science,
Oh, okay.
social studies.
Okay. Are the weekly newsletters available off of the website? And if not, can they be?
They sure can be. I don't know if they are currently,
Okay,
but I can check.
okay. There's great information in there, and it would be wonderful if
social media and general media this year has been tremendous. I've seen many articles, Manchester Journal, Arlington Banner, lots of social media stuff going on, announcing all the great things that are going on in the school. And I just want to say thank you to you and to Missy for that. I think it's wonderful stuff.
I'm so glad you said that because there are two things that I forgot in my full thesis paper. I wanted to congratulate the SBL athletes for the fall season. And so we had boys soccer, we had Percival Hess and Kyler Aiken. And honorable mentions were Cam Clark, Louis Douglas, and Ethan Pickering. And for girls, it was Taylor Wilkins, Magnolia Robinson. And honorable mentions were Mia Aldridge, Aubrey Holly, and Grace Dietrich. And for cross country, Tobias Counts. So all of those students were highlighted. We also had an article about V. Keelan, who has donated hundreds of scarves over the course of the last 2 years to the students at Fisher. And so if you hadn't seen the article, I'd be happy to share it. But thank you for that reminder, because it was on my list. But congratulations to the athletes, and thank you to V for all of her scarves.
The PR is great to let people know all of what's going on. Okay, Jim, superintendent report.
Well, which one do I want to start with? So, last month you approved the purchase of electric buses. In the meantime, after I met with the finance department, some concerns arose over the structure of how these buses were going to be paid for. And there still would be free to the district, but how that is paid for, Renee and I had some questions, so we keep meeting with the consultants who you've met with me. I asked Holly here to explain, because I think it had to come back to the board to decide whether you still want to go forward with this, because there is a potential risk in the funding calculations to the tune of $218,000 that will come once you own the buses, but you can't get that incentive until you own the buses. So I'm not entirely convinced that the money will be there, and you don't have $200,000 lying around to basically give a short-term loan till that comes. But when we met with the consultants, they have a plan that Holly is going to talk to you about, but I want the board to be aware of it and comfortable with it before we move forward. So we have not done a purchase rec for the buses. It will have to happen by the end of this month. And just to complicate it more, there's all these other energy projects going on in the other districts in the ASU, mainly the MAU and the Union Elementary School District, that is also working with this consultant, that some of this coverage may be coming from those projects, which then, depending on what I hear, I may have to call an emergency meeting of those two boards to decide. You sent me something right at the end of today telling me that that's not the case, but from the meeting that I heard at 1:30 today, I was under the impression that some of those temporary shortfalls, because that's how I would classify it, would be covered from savings on energy projects at MAU and the Union Elementary. It's not their money, it was like their grant money. It's not like it's coming from their budget. I'm not too sure our consultant understands how an SU works. I know that Tracy in central office and Renee are concerned about how many different accounts may have to be juggled to pay for all of this. In the end, it is what you said you would get. You're going to get these buses for free, but there is a risk. So, Ollie, this is your opportunity to convince the board that we should move forward.
Yeah, so, so of the 4 buses, including Sandgate, total cost of the project is $1.6 million. 1.4 is coming from the EPA. that is in stone, that's not gonna change, that's there. So we have 200,000 that is coming from the IRS and legislation from the Inflation Reduction Act, right? The concern of the business office is that when the federal government changes, the IRS is not as concrete in their operations. And the tax attorney who works in central office, or the tax expert, is concerned that retroactively they'll come back, the federal government will come back and say, hey IRS, we changed our minds, we're gonna take that money back. So that leaves us with a 200,000 in the event that that happens. The consultants are
95% sure that it won't happen, but
It
that's
won't happen.
95%, not 100.
Yeah, so in the event that that does happen, the consultant has other means through which to fund the project on their end. On our end, of the 200,000, 150-ish, right, would be Arlington's. And about a year ago, I don't remember if I told you this board, we received a energy prize from the Department of Energy. We got a check for $100,000, and then they said, here, do this extra training, and we'll give you another 50. We've spent about, in total, we've got 150. We've spent about 50 of it.
It's
So-
including it funded the consultants for this, right? The bus consultants and the energy, their $2,500 fee was paid from that.
That's already, yep, exactly, yep. So they have options. The 150 question mark in the IRS, we have a $100,000 bucket of money that we can just not use. It's there. It's the whole intent of going through the process to get the prize was to come up with capital so that we can get projects like this going. The other exercise we went through today was to reach out to Green Mountain Power because they've been incentivized by the legislature to electrify, and they can provide an incentive of about $10,000 per bus. So $40,000, but 30 of it is yours. So there is it's going to be complicated. The back end of things that you guys will never see. I have offered that I will do that in every way, and I'm happy to do the reporting.
It's a very nervous financial office about the complications in finance, and that's what you mean by the backside of yes, it can all work, but the managing of that and the tracking of all the different accounts that are coming in to pay for this. Sorry.
Yeah, because all the districts make it complicated. I am confident that in the event there is a shortfall, which we don't anticipate, but if there is a shortfall, we can find ways to backfill that money. We know through conversations with Efficiency Vermont, Green Mountain Power, and other electrification entities in the state, there will be ways in the event that happens to get this project across the finish line, still not costing as an aggregate Arlington any money. So it's a lot more work. It's going to be a lot more complicated in the event that the federal government pulls the IRS funds back. Again, the likelihood is low. However, I forgot the magic call.
My due diligence is let the board be as informed as possible, and finance department is concerned, I'm concerned. Yes, it looks like it can still happen, but
Talk worst case scenario for 150 in the hole.
well, now it's like 120 because of Green Mountain kicking in
Well,
another 10,000.
So if we're 150 in the hole, we have $100,000 sitting in our bank account right now. So that takes us down to 53 buses. Green Mountain Power has already agreed to incentivize. That would be 30,000. And so we'd be short 20, and I am,
But I would assume that you'd have to
Well, the-
come support Sandgate.
But the SU is gonna have to vote to transfer
Right.
that 100,000. There's a lot of,
correct.
there's a lot of coordination that has to happen to make sure that this does work. And I know that this is something that Holly is passionate about and has let us in, and I applaud her for that, but I wasn't comfortable moving forward without the board knowing that there are a few complications. And
But the complications are gonna be there whether we do that this year or next year, or the way
Yeah.
that the funding flow of money works.
yeah,
This is the reality of,
I'm not saying not to do it, I want you aware of that.
yeah,
We may come back to you a year from now saying that we had to move some money around, and I didn't want you to say, wait a minute, that sounds almost too good to be true.
yeah. Yeah,
So again, worst case scenario, let's just assume the $100,000 doesn't go. We're looking at 120 grand for 3 buses. Worst, absolute worst case scenario. The principal would hate us if we had to make up $120,000 shortfall, but we could probably do it if we absolutely
Yeah.
had to.
In worst case scenario, you do short-term borrowing and you're just paying on that loan for the months between when you had to make the payment and the bus is actually delivered, but then you got the incentive. Unless the incentive collapses, but that's when the other school districts would probably have to get involved. I didn't go down this rabbit hole, but there are other energy projects that are going on that if the Union Elementary District and the MEU District agreed to do it, then there's enough profit for the engineering company, if I understand this correctly, that they would fund it.
The arrangement is a little more like a power purchasing agreement, but without getting too much into the weeds on that, and I'm happy to talk about that too.
You know, that's why I said this rabbit hole, it gets really complicated after that, but
Yeah.
of where, we would be getting other boards to vote on projects that they don't even know about yet, because the consultant looked at projects for solar and battery storage at Union Elementary District schools and MAU schools that are multi-million-dollar projects that then would incentivize this engineering company that we've consulted with to carry that cost until all those initiatives, all those incentives came in. That's what I heard today.
Yes, and the only connection with those other energy efficiency projects, there is no connection yet. Let me just be very clear, this is a standalone project, there are no connections. What the consultant said was, if you would like, if Arlington School Board would like, kind of like a payment or performance bond, like if they want, if Arlington Board wants them to underwrite it, so let's say the IRS does say no, we have to come up with it, they will backfill that money themselves. They do not have the financial backing to do that unless we sign up for some of the, not all, but some of the other energy projects. And there are 50 of them. Like there's a lot. One of the big ones is a time crunch. But that would be the only connection. If you guys wanted to be like, we want belts and suspenders for financing, we need to go to the other boards to have them look at these projects, which are not shovel ready, so we have not brought them to the table because I don't want to bring half-assed ideas to the table, right? Like I want to vet everything and have everything delivered and roll that out way.
I wasn't here last meeting, but does this include garages to house the buses in?
Not to begin with. That's sort of the phase phase 2 of the project. The electric buses do have interval block heaters, so while it would be better to have them inside, we can still keep the heaters for the engines warm, even if they're not close inside.
So you did vote to go ahead and buy the buses, but I wanted you to hear this
Yeah.
as an advisory. If you heard anything that concerned that you want to reconsider, this would be the time.
Well, I mean, to Todd's point, the worst case scenario is $150,000. It would cost us that much money to buy a bus. And if we don't go forward with the electric bus proposal, we're going to have to be talking about buying a bus.
Yep.
So,
For roughly the same amount of money.
for the same amount of money,
For one.
for one bus.
I just wanted to be,
No, I understand and I appreciate
You may have
that,
heard a
'cause it's-
rumor that I'm going to be leaving, and I don't want next year you saying, he never told us.
No, I mean,
I
it's
still
a-
think it's worth going forward.
Yeah,
Because I mean, if our total worst case scenario is approximately $120,000, I think it's a risk worth taking. I hope we don't have to go the alternative, but that's my opinion.
and I would just ask that as we go forward, that you give us as much notice on any concerns so that we aren't surprised at the end.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
And I know when the project was first discussed, we did ask about storage, garages, and the consultants had, we didn't really get into conversation about it, but they had thoughts about how that could be addressed.
Yes.
So
The
we shouldn't forget phase 2.
Yeah, absolutely, and phase 2 doesn't have a clock on it.
Yeah.
Phase 1 does.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just know that we have to have a purchase order by the end of this month.
Yep.
All right, so,
Okay.
wanted to hear that, thank you. The Director of HR, Nick Galt, is here. I asked him, because you had some recent questions that he can address.
Yep. I know.
Questions for me?
The email that we received regarding pay for,
And I met with Nick today, and he has a proposal solution to,
Is this the recent one
on the,
or earlier this afternoon?
earlier this afternoon.
yeah,
That are currently being paid to teachers that do committee work and potentially other hourly work outside their regular contracted day. The reason there are 2 rates now is an understanding of a rate that's paid to SVSU teachers. It's actually in, the language refers to summer school, but it's been expanded over the years to encompass lots of things. And that current rate is $45 an hour. Teachers under the Arlington contract, our understanding was we used a coverage rate. I think it's in section 8.5 that talks about in-classroom day coverage of $38. We've been using that rate for committee work and similar work. So what exists now is a situation where teachers, 2 different districts, are working on the same committee and receiving different rates of pay because their contracts or interpretations of their contracts are different. So, the concern was raised by the association here about that rate. And I think what they forwarded to you was essentially a grievance and a proposal to discuss an MOU that would essentially provide equity on that rate, or maybe even more specific language that would say, we're setting this rate for committee work or extra hours work, or however.
but you
Because
do
the
have a
language is right now-
recommendation.
Yeah, and it's not clear in the SVSU contract either, we just have this long-standing practice that we use that rate for everything. So I would say, I mean, it's a grievance that's at your stage to respond to.
Which I just received it
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
I think my guidance or advice would be to discuss a possible MOU to address that, if that's the will of the board, and you feel that's the rate you'd like to pay for that type of committee
I
work.
think it's a simple solution.
Extra hours work, yeah, it doesn't, it's not a major, if you decided to do that, it's not a major budgetary item. These are hours that get done for, ELA committees and things like that.
You have people on a literacy committee in the 2 different school districts doing the same work, but they're getting 2 different hourly
Yeah.
rates.
You could also use it to the same language
summer school
What
rates,
and when?
the summer school rate's a negotiated rate. That was something that was negotiated in collective bargaining.
Is there a summer school rate currently in the contract? Okay. How do we look at that? So maybe that doesn't need to be part of that. Yeah, I wasn't trying to cast too broadly. But
I don't know if it's called summer school rate, there's an additional rate of pay.
yeah, it's a per diem rate. So there's the per diem rate, which talks about if there's extra days of school. I don't want to
Why
paraphrase.
don't we defer to, why don't we schedule a meeting, whoever negotiates for the board, and Nick, the association, and see if we can negotiate an MAU to address this. And we may not, and then the agreements will solve.
Well, just to be clear, the grievance is only at step one, which is nothing's in writing, and it's a conversation to say, oh, there's a problem,
Yep.
do we have a solution?
Yep.
So we have not advanced it any further, and my email said,
Yep.
so we don't have to advance it
Correct.
any further, can we just stop and kind of find a solution?
Seems like a good path.
So since we have our negotiating committee for the teachers, can we have Todd and Jess and Nick work with the association on an MOU for this particular topic? Okay. Who will you, Nick, will you take the lead on pulling that group
Yep.
together?
Schedule a Zoom meeting or physical meeting.
Okay. Jess, I just want to make sure that you can still hear what we're talking about, since now we're talking about something you're going to directly participate in.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay. Okay. Great.
I'm on it. Thank you.
And when, you also have a request to open
Yep,
negotiation. I don't know if you want to discuss that while Nick is still here or not.
sure. We did receive a letter from the support staff requesting that we begin negotiating on the support staff contract.
Thank you.
Our committee last year was Dan and Terry. Because Jim referenced, which I do want to talk about, we do have a superintendent and assistant superintendent search process that we're going to be starting, that I'm going to be very involved in, so I don't want to leave negotiating committee in the lurch. If you guys are
I'm good
comfortable
with
doing that
it
again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan and Terry, sorry.
Yes. So I think we need a motion to have Dan and Terry be our negotiating committee for the support staff contract.
So moved.
I will-
Second.
Jess will second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you for doing that.
I have a question on it, I guess, I'm not changing my vote, but, I mean, it's pretty obvious last year, we just did the exact same thing for both of them. Has that always been that way?
No.
No?
Well, there's been years that support staff has gotten completely different pay scales, it's been all kinds of different things.
But as far as the raise and that stuff, it's always been the same?
No. It's not always the same.
I mean, I would say that more times than not, they're similar, but there have been years that things have changed. And also, there's language changes from time to time in the two different contracts. I think this year we're going to have, SVSU has to be more involved because Arlington has SVSU paid employees under their contract as well.
Yep.
For both, so.
Well, we do still have the matter of transitioning into the SU contract, and that hasn't been finalized. Whether or not we do that as a separate transition committee to talk about how those contracts come together and merge, but
Not that I want to run down that rabbit hole, but I would think that that's a much larger discussion than just negotiating
well, and that's what we were,
language changes and
absolutely. And
raises.
I think Jim has mentioned, ideally we'd have that on a separate track, but
Yes.
allow negotiations to move forward and So before we move on from our superintendent report, I know that
That's all.
it has been publicly announced, and I wanted to thank you and acknowledge the amount of work that you've done, the significant amount of work that you've done to try to get us to the point that we're at right now. I appreciate working with you and having your leadership. And
Thank you. I've been working in education since 1981. That's
Yeah.
when I started teaching. And it's, yeah, it's time to go. And with my wife retiring last year, it's made it even more and more like,
yeah,
it's time to go. But thank you. And I'm here till June 30th. So. But I wanted the SU to have enough time, especially with the assistant superintendent first, to get out there early to look for a superintendent. That there are a lot of openings in the state, as Nick can tell you.
7.
And get a superintendent hired who then can work to get an assistant superintendent hired.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to have a wonderful assistant superintendent, and with her leaving, that's even more of an incentive for me to leave too. So. You know, and there'll be more time for this as we get closer, but I work with a great team. It's not me, it's Nick, Renee, Holly, Lauren, Melissa, Megan, and Kate Abbott. That central office team, we all work well together, we all get along. I think it's a rarity that, yeah. The whole reason I've stayed this long is because of some of the people I've worked with. Oh, Adam too, sorry. I forget him sitting right there.
So on that topic, we do have a meeting set with, at the last SBSU meeting, there was a decision to move forward and work with the VSBA on a search process for the superintendent. We have a call scheduled for Friday that Scott McEnany, the board chair, and I'm the vice chair for the SBSU board, and Nick will be participating in to talk to them. They have a consultant that will help us with both the superintendent search process as well as we had previously reached out to them to ask for assistance with strategic planning, SBSU organizational structure. So we're still going to do the SBSU organizational structure conversation because Jim has been really honest about wanting to set the organization up even before his announcement to make sure that whoever came in to his position had a sustainable structure. And some question about whether or not the way we're currently set up is really sustainable. So the consultant from the VSBA is going to help us with both of those. And we'll move quickly, and I'll keep you updated. But that starts Friday. Anything else?
No.
Check over your report, okay. Under policies, we have 2 to warn. There were 3 in the folder. Looks like 1 was just posted because it had admin regs that were included. At least that's the way I read it. But the only 2 that are on the agenda to warn is 1090, use of school facilities, and 5156, student nutrition and wellness. The other one that was in there was policy 5140 regarding communicable diseases, but again, it doesn't look like there are changes to the content of the policy. It is specifications that were included under the administrative regulations, the admin procedures. So we need a motion to warn 1090, use of school facilities.
So moved.
Second.
Todd and Dan, any discussion?
I guess I have a question as to, we warn the policies, when do we give input on the policies, or don't we? Do we just approve them?
No, we should. I mean, if we're reading through and there are things that, so the process is that the policy committee has identified and is working on specific policies. They've received input from the administrators. So the draft that we're seeing here has already been through administrative review.
Okay.
and it's presented to the boards and warned. So any questions or any feedback or any clarification should be, this is the time,
When they're warned.
as they're
Okay,
warned before they're
I didn't have anything
approved.
on these.
Yep.
Previously.
Before, because they'll come back again to be adopted, so if there was any questions now in the warning stage, that would be the time to comment, and
Okay.
those comments would go back to the policy committee for adoption.
Okay.
Is Leon still the
Chair.
policy committee chair?
Yeah.
Okay, I read through them and did have a couple of things that I wanted to just get clarification on before they come back. So if you guys read through and have anything else that we want to include from Arlington regarding those two policies, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we have 5156, student nutrition and wellness. Also looking for a motion to warn that policy.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Todd and Dan again for a motion and a second. Any discussion on that policy? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. Consent agenda. The only item on there was the Washington DC field trip. Well, minutes from October 21st and Washington DC field trip.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Committee reports, we don't have anything listed here. I think our only acting committee, right, well, we'll start our negotiating committees, but is our facilities committee, and we've had many conversations about what's going on with the facilities. Chair's report, we've already done our negotiating committee. I did attend the VSBA conference. It was very well attended. They had some interesting keynote speakers and some breakout sessions. The breakout session that I attended was about the budgeting process. One goes and then the other goes. And so to that end, I also wanted to mention that Renee did a budget process presentation for all of our member districts. It has been recorded, and I think before we really get into the budgeting process, if you haven't watched it, I learned something every time. She kind of talks about how we build our budgets and what the funding structure is and how it all works. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think, talking about how I'd love your feedback on how do we share something like that with the community? Do we share something like that with the community?
Trying to achieve that for 15 years ago.
I saw that the VSBA also has kind of a budgeting overview video. I haven't watched it, but I don't know. I don't know how much information is too much information, but, well, I don't know if anything related to the budget is too much information. It's complicated.
I think overviews or snapshots of how it is good. I think our community likes to be educated on how those things are done. Like we did last year with calculation of taxes and things. I think it's important that they see that so they know what we have control over, what we don't control, those types of things. But it's a fine line between too much information,
Yeah.
overload, and keeping it simple too, and not overly complicated, because it can be extremely complicated.
to us. I don't know if that, we can kind of hang on to that as an idea to send that out. Encourage people to watch it, come to a community forum, talk about any questions that they have related to the budget process.
Just under an hour for Zoom meeting recording.
I'm a big fan of those because a lot of people don't want to stand up at town meeting and ask questions.
Yeah,
But they will in those types of settings that are specific to budget. And I think it's important that those, if one person's thinking of that question, it's likely that there's dozens. And they're usually very well received, well attended, and it puts some angst and potential rumors to sleep.
yeah. So February?
Yeah, you're gonna wanna go early February probably.
Okay. Okay, we'll put that on future, I'll go back and look at the VSBA video too. and
Really,
see.
really.
Yeah, okay. I didn't have anything else. Under the FYI, there's the budget status report, student enrollment, oh, and there is communicable diseases was under an FYI for the admin regs. So if there is no other business,
No business for tonight. What I would ask is maybe for our December meeting, we
Yeah,
we
talk
have
about
the
structure.
conversations about how this year's current structure is going. Needs, wants, wishes, et
before we
cetera,
get into budgeting.
For future,
things like that.
Yep. So I'll make sure that goes on the December agenda. Okay. Great.
At the end, like a sauna, he's not in there with him.
A what?
A sauna.
Should that go in the budget? And we will adjourn at 6:28.